Hello everyone, my name is Jake from Talk Too Much, and I am here and proud to present my Christopher Nolan ranking of all 13 of his films. This is a video that I've been planning for a while now, especially with all the hype behind the Odyssey. I knew at some point I'd have to travel through the man's catalog. I have to go through all of them to be able to give an honest opinion for not only myself as a person that loves movies, but just as someone who wanted to go see the Odyssey and just kind of understand what I was fully getting into. Now, of course, just like a lot of people, when I was younger, whenever you heard the name Christopher Nolan attached, you immediately knew either A, it was a very big movie that was about to be released, or B, we got another Batman movie. Christopher Nolan, one thing I've learned with my experience with his movies is that he is more of a person where I feel like my enjoyment for his films would have highly enhanced just going into the theaters. And I've kind of learned that after seeing two of his movies in theaters, in which I will tell you which ones as we get to them. But one thing that, while I can absolutely say he's an excellent director, his script has always been something that has been lacking a little bit for me, along with the filters that I have just seen throughout his movies. Whenever something was being released and you did see the trailer of it, you got the same three black, blue, and gray colors. To a point where it got a little tiring, and I just never really was interested in Nolan because I also felt like it was just going to be the same thing over and over and over again. I can say he's a phenomenal director. He does have a place in the movie industry. I respect him personally just for all of his opinions and the fact that, he is a very, very bold with his statements and what he has to represent when it comes to movies and the actual film universe. A lot of respect to the guy for that. So without further ado, let's get started with number 13. And number 13 on this list, it's going to have to go to his 2020 movie, Tenet. Now, Tenet was kind of a very, very big miss with me. In the sense of course, you have a decent cast. I enjoyed Robert Pattinson in this. My biggest gripe with this movie is you're taking a story that sounds cool in theory and making it so damn complex to the point where I was so lost watching this. And the thing is that it's a 2 hour long movie. By the end of it, I wasn't really that big of a fan. I thought it was fine. It's not the worst thing in the world ever created. I could say that about all Nolan movies. I've seen a lot of trash, a lot of trash. I can say that Nolan does not have a single trash film, nor does he have a single bad film. He may have some that are okay, and that's kind of where we're starting here. But as for Tenet, it was just slow. It was confusing. Not a movie I don't want to have to rewatch multiple times in order to finally understand it. And for me, it sits here at number 13. Number 12 on this list, we actually have Nolan's debut film, The Following. I thought this was a very interesting debut film from the guy, especially now with what all he has done. Going back, I would say 28 years prior to where he is first starting and seeing all of this unfold in black and white. It's a nice, simple, short story about a guy being followed around and not understanding what's happening. You can start to see that Nolan has something here. This is also, I feel like, on the better sides of his script work for sure. I definitely think it's a nice, short, sweet, simple story. There's just not a lot to really gravitate to where you're just like, oh, I want to see The Following again from Nolan. You just don't really get that with this kind of film, but nonetheless, an exceptional debut that you can give the man props for. Number 11 on this list, we have Memento. Now, this also might be a little controversial, but this is Nolan's first theatrical debut. It follows a guy who is trying to solve a mystery, and every 15 minutes his brain constantly resets, and he's trying to have to constantly remember what his case is that he is going through. And while that sounds like a great premise, it certainly does. It's very action driven, it's very old school 90s, and it looks insanely cool. I got so tired after the first hour of this movie to where I was just kind of like, I see what you're going for here, but you're kind of losing me some. I don't know how I'm feeling about this. I see what everybody says when they say they want another Memento from Christopher Nolan, and I can understand that. And maybe upon rewatch with this movie, I can enjoy it a little bit more, because after all, I do have it on VHS. So I'd be open to rewatching this one more. Just as an initial watch, it's not something to where I feel like every single second was as crazy as everybody was saying it was going to be. So with that being said, it sits here at number 11. All right, now we're approaching Nolan's top 10, and we're going to start off with number 10 being Dunkirk. Now this movie shot beautifully. No other words to say along with it is absolutely stunning, gorgeous. I love Tom Hardy in this. Seeing Harry Styles was a big shock about this, and just seeing the whole war going on. Nolan basically giving his spin on his. I think this is his first war movie where it's actually witnessing combat during World War One and World War Two. Watching it, there's not really exactly story driven, but you're kind of just set to watch it where you're just watching all the big shots being done, watching all the people running across the fields, watching all the soldiers just lined up while the planes are flying by shooting on them. As for a cinematography and visual standpoint, it is incredible. But this is also just not something to where it's, like I said, it's not story driven. It's not exactly character driven. And you tend to lose me a little bit that way. So I have to have it here at number 10. All right. Number 9. Don't crucify me, Nolan fans. Please don't crucify me. You gotta understand. I'm not saying this man has bad films. Don't crucify me with this. Number 9 is gonna have to go to Interstellar. I'm a huge Matthew McConaughey fan. You throw on anything with Matthew McConaughey, I'm going to stay in and watch it. I absolutely adore the guy. I love everything that he puts out. And he was the main selling point of this movie. And then finding out that Anne Hathaway is in it later on was just even better. But it gets to a point where this movie, at least during the middle act of this movie, drags so hard. And then you start seeing the plot holes along with the script and the storytelling to where I was struggling with this movie because of that. Now, the last third of this movie is some of the best experience visually that you could ever have, especially when Matthew McConaughey gets into the black hole. Some of the best work that Nolan has ever done in his filmography, period. But it doesn't mistake for the long runtime. It does not mistake for at least the poor storytelling here and there. So with that being said, I have to put it here at number 9. Number 8. Now this is kind of where we're getting to the more interesting section of my filmography with Nolan here. We're going to have Batman Begins. Now if you would have told me in the 90s or in the 2000s that Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, aka Christian Bale, was going to be the new Bruce Wayne, I would have looked at you and said, you know what? He's a star. I absolutely see it. Nolan's main issue, I feel like, with Batman was that it was very much a whole, how can we capture the most beauty of Gotham, of everything happening around Batman, and not so much worry about his character. And I tend to have that little issue here with Nolan's debut Batman film. Not to say it's bad. I definitely would 100% rewatch this. Again, we're starting to get to that point where the rewatch value is a lot higher with Nolan's films. But I don't have the experience with this movie like a lot of other people do, going to see it in theaters. It's just not the case for me. Watching it the first time, I thought it was okay. And of course, upon more rewatches, it got better and better and better to the point where I would even rewatch this and I wouldn't complain. And some people say that this is their Batman, which I can totally understand that. Some people say Robert Pattinson's there's a Batman's. I can completely understand that as well. I feel like really this kind of just has to do with what are you looking for in these Batman films? Are you looking for more of a directional standpoint from Nolan and a wider angle of Batman? Or are you actually focusing on Batman himself? And I'm sure everybody's going to remember when this was a big thing a couple of years ago. We got Oppenheimer. Now, I was not a part of the fan base that saw Oppenheimer and Barbie the same day. I didn't do that. I only went to go see Barbie with my wife because she was just so head over heels about it. And I just wanted to make her happy. And the idea of sitting through a Barbie movie and then sitting through a 3 hour long Oppenheimer Christopher Nolan movie, that sounded like a little bit too much on my plate in the beginning. But I did buy the 4K disc of this because I wanted to truly visually see what all Nolan put into this at the best possible way, which was on disc. So watching this visually, absolutely stunning. I love all the actors that are a part of this work, and just showing the atomic bomb and all the chaos that came apart our history in the US, which is telling the story about what all mankind can do and how it is so dangerous that they don't even have to be out in the fields of war. They could just be back behind building stuff, causing all this chaos. I love the way that it is told, where it's just absolutely stunning. Again, like I said, visually, it's beautiful. Cillian Murphy, along with Emily Blunt, were an absolute delight to watch back and forth. And another hot take from a non-Nolan fan, we have Inception. I do think that this movie is good. It is very, very good. Do not be mistaken by that. I like Leonardo DiCaprio. I think he's great in this. I think Cillian Murphy, Tom Hardy, Elliot Page, wonderful job here. And I actually do think that when it comes to Nolan's films, this was one that I did not see in theaters that I was more gravitated towards, and I kind of like that, so I can at least appreciate it from that standpoint. This is another one of Nolan's films where he's like, hey, we know reality. I'm going to mess all that up for you. And it kind of becomes a cool idea of how far along in the dreams can you really go to the point where it just never ends. And so I like the idea of this movie. I think it's very well executed. I think the way everything looks, you wouldn't have been able to guess it. This is 2010. This is a very, very strong filmed movie. With all that being said, there are just some moments here that kind of feels a little bit of a dud for me. Doesn't work exactly. Not that it's bad or anything. By no means is it bad. And actually, we're hitting that point where the rewatch value is very high up on this list. It's just, for me, this is not going to be a film where where I may say, oh, if you like these other films and you want to get into Christopher Nolan, this is his like magnum opus and all that stuff, like everybody else says. But it would be one I would recommend and say, hey, you're gonna have a good time with this if you've never seen it before. I went into it completely blind, not knowing anything. All I knew is that Leonardo DiCaprio and Elliot Page were a part of this project, and I was kind of in for a good surprise. Next up on the list, now, you might be wondering, Jake, You missed a movie that's supposed to be below Inception and below Oppenheimer. That is technically worse than those two movies. That's your list, buddy. This is my list. And for my first theatrical biased, very, very biased opinion of Nolan, my first theatrical moment with him was The Dark Knight Rises. Now look, hear me out. I know this is not everybody's favorite Batman movie, and I understand a lot of people have it a lot lower than others, and I completely get it. But for me, this was like one of those moments where, like people say, if you know Christopher Nolan, you know the best way to see his movies are gonna be in theaters. And it stuck with me a lot, especially when I was around elementary school. I went and saw this, and it stuck with me. It was incredibly shot. I feel like this is a fair, great way to end Batman and kind of like pass on the torch to someone else, which would be aka Robin. And which I wanted a Robin movie. I was really sad that we never got that, because I think that Gordon Lewis, or I'm blanking on the name, so forgive me. But I would absolutely have loved to seen that torch pass and see what he would have done in his own movie. I think that would have been really, really great. It's unfortunate that we're never going to get to see that, but Dark Knight Rises for me is a perfect ending to the I almost said Patrick Bateman, Christian Bale version of Batman. It is great. It is phenomenal. It is a very perfect closing. I think Bane as a villain is worth being talked about, in the way that they just made him as ugly and as nasty as possible of a human being, and just all the emotions surrounding everything. I thought this is beautifully shot, as always, like Nolan does. Is definitely on the lines of his better script work. Now, another hot take here. My next one up at number 4, we have The Prestige. This was a movie where I've heard nothing but good things about. Everybody says, oh, if you need to see a Nolan film, you have to watch The Prestige. The Prestige is like his magnum opus. It's one of the best films in his filmography. And I hear a lot of people say it is up there as for the top of his films. And understandably so. I mean, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale back and forth with the whole magician work and everything. I thought it was absolutely bananas. It was so fun. It was completely bizarre. The twist that this movie throws, this is where I felt like Nolan really shined as a storyteller rather than just kind of relying on the shots to do all the work for him. This is something where you have to really focus in on the story and catch the twists that are being thrown at you, in which are two really big ones. That one of them I did see coming, the second one I didn't see coming, so that was kind of an actual pleaser right there. But this is definitely among Nolan's better scripts, and again, from a direction standpoint, he is great. He knows how to do the shots. One thing I've struggled with his filmography, though, is the script writing in general. It is very rough to keep watching. So, seeing The Prestige is something where actually I can say your script work is flawless. It's where it needs to be. My main complaint is probably just they could have cut some pieces here and there, shortened the runtime to a little bit more, under 2 hours. I think you would have had a perfect 5 out of 5 movie, for me at least. The two magicians going back and forth at each other, not being able to tell what all is happening, and so you have to keep watching to understand the back history of these two hating each other so much. It's great. And I can at least say that Nolan, as for a scriptwriter, this is one of his peak moments here. Going on to number 3, and we have the newest addition on this list. We have the Odyssey, which I'll have my review down below in the comments of what I thought about the Odyssey. But this was something I was desperately needing from Nolan, just as a non-fan, but trying to understand and get into his work. This was something I just needed from him. Seeing him tackle the Odyssey, not using time, reality, but just telling a story and using all the time he needs for it. Absolutely beautiful in all the correct ways it needs to be. Every single star in this movie, you hear their name in it, and they're in there for a reason. Even if it's like a 5-minute conversation with Elliot Page involved, or if it's something that's Mia Goth who's in here for probably about like 3 minutes at most. Every single star in here serves a purpose, and I love it so much. I think Matt Damon comes in as a freaking king in this. He is telling the story and does such a great job playing Odysseus. This is one of Tom Holland's best performances, without a doubt. My only gripe with this movie is I kind of wish I saw Zendaya more in this, because understanding her character playing Athena is a huge part of this movie. I only wish I got to see her more, but also when you get to that final curtain pull of Athena and Odysseus and how everything kind of all came together for full circle, and you understand what the history behind the Trojan War was for Odysseus. Once you have that moment, it's such an incredible, satisfying ending, along with an incredible 45-minute epilogue, that I just was excited and on my feet all the way through. It really grabbed me in to where I'm like, I don't want to blink. I don't want to miss a single moment. And so with all that being said, number 3 here, I have The Odyssey. Number 2 here. Now, there's only 2 movies left in Nolan's filmography. So you may be thinking, is it one or the other? And with that being said, we are going to conclude the Batman trilogy here with number 2, The Dark Knight. Now, here with The Dark Knight, I am a huge fan not only of this movie and the way everything with Gotham looks. I really miss, and can only say I miss, Heath Ledger. His best performance by a landslide, to where I was very unfamiliar with his work, and he is tragically gone way too soon. Before I rewatched The Dark Knight, I went back at some of his bigger movies like 10 Things I Hate About You, and just along with a few others, and just watching those and then going all the way from there to The Joker, I realized he is such a talented gift, and it is so heartbreaking that he is no longer here with us. This is a perfect villain arc movie. I know that our main focus should have been Batman, and it should, but I think that going from Joker and from Batman's hardest decisions that he has to make as a human being, um, one way or another, something has to be done. And it's probably up there with one or two of the best Batman movies that have ever been created. I think it's Nolan's best one to date, hands down. It's something where you can easily throw this on, and everybody's going to recognize that when they think of The Dark Knight, they're going to think of Nolan, and they're going to think of this movie. This is one of his magnum opuses. I say one of them because this man has so many on his list. Even as someone who just doesn't watch it all the time and doesn't watch his films all the time, I can at least appreciate that before I knew who Nolan was as a director, this is what I was presented, having no knowledge or anything about it. So it sits here at number 2, one of the best superhero movies ever created in general, one of the best DC entries in the universe. We have The Dark Knight. And with all that being said, that leaves only one contender, and this might come as a shock to a lot of people, but as a non-Christopher Nolan fan, my number 1 for him is going to have to be Insomnia. Now, Insomnia was a movie that, like, going into it, I had heard the good things about it. When it came to the start of this list, I always heard that the 2 best movies that he had outside the Batman trilogy was Insomnia and The Prestige. And while The Prestige is great, I kind of had high expectations for Insomnia. And holy cow, I was so pleased with this movie. That's just to say the minimum. I was so happy every single way of this movie, the way it was all done, the way it was all shot. This is without a doubt Christopher Nolan's best script work. You can't tell me otherwise. This is him doing his job without having to move the camera, and to where I can actually see the creator behind working on all fronts when it comes to the script writing, the setting, which it's all shot in Alaska and looks absolutely beautiful. I feel like having Al Pacino as a detective who kind of has a muddy past, coming in from a sunny area to a completely cloudy and gray area, it does the trick without being obnoxious or too over the top. I love that about this movie. Also, with all the knowledge you get about Robin Williams in this movie, it really makes it interesting when he is played as the bad guy, as the killer, and just understanding back in a certain time where it wasn't so easy to get him as a villain. The one thing I got out of this movie when I finished it is all I was thinking is like, I need to watch more Robin Williams movies, because it's such a shame that he isn't making movies anymore. He's no longer here. But I loved his performance in this. It made me want to watch more of his stuff. Same thing with Al Pacino. And this is Nolan, again, doing his work without relying on the extreme camera shots to do anything. It does it in such a way where you're getting a great criminal story, a great thriller that has been done right. Psychologically, it has a lot of great stuff here and there when you're playing with the whole sleep factor, how it's really only dark for like 2 hours in Alaska, and it plays a huge effect on Al Pacino's character in the movie, really messes with his mind. You're trying to capture the right guy, but make sure the wrong one doesn't go away. It's very well done. I think it is Nolan's best film, and probably the one where you're going to ask me, out of all these, which one I'm going to rewatch, which one I got the most enjoyment out of. It comes here at number 1 with Insomnia. So with all that being said, let me know down below in the comments, what's your Nolan ranking? Where do you put all 13 of his films? What's your favorite? What's your favorite Batman? Because I've been hearing a lot of people say otherwise about the Batman franchise. So let me know down below what you think. Like, share, and I'll see you guys in the next video.